Hi everyone, welcome to another webinar by Fluid AI, and I think by far the most exciting one that we'll be conducting in the last couple of months because we're launching the new Agentic AI platform, right, Abhinav?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what's exciting about all of this is that there's so much conversation on Agentic AI in terms of what it will make possible and what's going to happen with it.
Yep.
Uh, but can you walk us through what the team has sort of done at Fluid to sort of really get this out there and get this big?
Yeah, I think largely what we're seeing is this whole shift from I think RAG was very popular 2025, 2023, and now we're seeing this big shift towards agentic models and agentic approaches to a lot of these things. So what the reason the shift has come is because the models have become a lot more intelligent.
Okay.
So suddenly they're able to do a lot of things that they weren't able to do earlier.
Okay.
And
Can you just tell us what RAG is, just to refresh us?
yeah. So RAG is retrieval augmented generation, which basically means it's an AI system which can it's like reading and the LLM is trained, so it has certain knowledge.
Okay.
And then you're giving it access to additional information in real time. So it's like an open book exam.
Right.
And then you're asking a question, to bringing in real time information, and it's answering using that. So that way, like even if the LLM doesn't have access to, it wasn't during training, didn't have access to something, and now you give it kind of can understand organizational knowledge and information essentially.
Got it. And then agentic takes this a step further, right? In terms of now it's not information, it's action.
Correct.
So you're now dealing in an action-oriented world rather than just information in and out.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are two things, right? One is if you want to agentic does two things, right? The word agentic comes from the word agency.
Okay.
So it means that these models have their own intelligence, if you might put it, right? Mm-hmm. So their own agency of decision making. So they're not bound by just saying, okay, do this one task. Like in RAG, it's like, here's a question, here's a bunch of sources, answer the question.
Okay.
With agents, it's like, okay, we need to solve this problem, and you have access to these tools or functionalities,
right?
And you are like, you figure it out. Right?
Okay.
It's very intelligently deciding what to do next, almost on the fly. Like the LLM is using its intelligence to decide what to do next, which is kind of a very neat way of leveraging language models, right? And then when you start trying to do that, the problem that used to come is that one agent can only do so much.
Right? Correct. Yeah, because it's limited by the tools.
Correct. Yeah. So like you could give an agent access to like one agent access to 10 tools, 20 tools, 100 tools.
Right.
And then you give it its prompt, like its instructions and everything, right? Correct. But it starts to, with more complex, and you'll see a few examples today, like with more complex examples, it starts to get tricky.
Okay.
How does the LLM kind of, how do I put it? Like if it's having to decide between 20 tools, right? Let's say you're using a bank support system, right? It has to decide between 20 tools, and each tool has a different output. It needs to understand whether the user needs to be authenticated, and those auths have different kinds of journeys. Suddenly it gets very hard to kind of program, like not just prompt that and into one agent.
Okay.
And that's where you start creating a series of agents with different specializations.
Got it.
And each agent has access to its own tools. So it's kind of like an office.
I got you. With the specialists in the office.
Exactly right. So you'd kind of get different specialists in the office at different points in time. So if you're like running a project, you'll have like, oh, this guy's great at writing code, and then this person's great at marketing, this person's great at research.
Okay.
And then you put them together in a team, right? Versus trying to say, oh, let me have this one person that's great at everything.
Like a super generalist. So you have a team of specialists or a team of doctors.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about Fluid's approach to this, right? This has been a long time coming for us in terms of, I think some of the LinkedIn posts have compared it to the 911s launched by Porsche, or the Birkin by Hermes.
Yeah.
Why is this such a game-changing agentic AI platform before we sort of really go into
absolutely. And if we can just switch our positions, just swap it over right to left, because I think others were looking like for the viewers, now we're looking right.
Yeah.
So I think when like our agents are going to be like the new apps, right? Like you have language models that are like phones, right? Like, oh, the iPhone came, right, and revolutionized the way we work. It's like, oh, this totally different way of interacting with this device and a new type of device.
Okay.
Language models were that, right? They're a totally new way of interacting with computers, systems,
cool.
And they have this intelligence to them. And agents are almost like apps on top of that.
Okay.
So you could build like an app which is like a sales agent app, or a call center support app.
All right.
And that's the way we've kind of looked at it. Like, so I think the few key items that everyone's looking at when they're building agents is, one, they're extremely programming oriented. Like, I feel like it's like all the programmers can create these, but they're not available for regular folks.
Like a no code, low code?
Yeah, exactly. Like a business user can't go like, oh, this is the way I work, and can I just put it down and have a series of agents do this for me?
Okay.
So I think that was one big gap, right? No matter like you see a Crew or a LangGraph or whatever the open source, frameworks out there, they're all limited to this approach of saying that, okay, you have to write code.
Okay.
Which is very stifling even for a developer, because it takes a lot of time to then learn the framework.
Yeah, really get the nuts and bolts going. Right?
Correct. Yeah. And you have like a thought flow in your head, so how do you get that running fast? So number one, that's something we try to solve for.
Okay.
The second big challenge when you want to use agents is how to use them in like agents these days have been great for like these linear flows.
Okay. So no back and forth.
Exactly. Like customers having back and forths with the agents.
Right.
That's like, even if you try and code that in one of the agentic frameworks, it's very complicated.
Okay.
Like, how do you maintain state, and then how does it go back and forth?
And that becomes important in customer interaction, because the customer's going to say, hey, I want to change something.
Yes.
Or you want he's not going to give you everything in the start. Like,
Correct.
Maybe a user in the company can, but a customer's not going to do.
Exactly. So customers will want a lot of back and forth switching. And managing going on. So that's where the ability for these agents to be a lot more intelligent, to handle that state is very important. So that's one key thing. That's the second thing we solve for. And third is, I think our biggest problem out there today is there's so many agentic frameworks.
Okay.
It's very hard to choose. Should I go with this? Should I go with Crew? Should I go with Llama Index? And then tomorrow you're going to be like, oh, okay, let's say you bet on LangGraph, and then 3 months to 6 months later, Crew AI is the hottest thing. Right now, Crew is the hottest thing. So then,
LangGraph comes ahead.
And this has happened once before. So if all of you remember the machine learning days, right? There used to be like when Google launched TensorFlow.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, machine learning now open source at another level. And everyone's trying to create these neural networks using TensorFlow. And Facebook, Meta at that time had launched something called PyTorch, which didn't pick up. And everyone was TensorFlow.
All right.
And like a couple of years later, I don't know what happened in the market, but suddenly PyTorch just took everything.
And it was PyTorch.
Yeah, like now PyTorch is the de facto. Like people don't even, people still use TensorFlow. It's a great library.
Right.
But PyTorch, like all the latest stuff that's happening with transformers, Gen AI, a lot of it is PyTorch.
Okay.
Right. Like if you pick a Hugging Face model, there's a high probability that
it's on PyTorch.
And Llama series is all running on top of PyTorch because of being the same parentage as Meta. But essentially, PyTorch has become like a lot of transform models are all written in PyTorch. You go to any open source library on GitHub. You will probably see PyTorch under the hood.
Got it.
So same thing with agents, right? It could be that one is picking up steam right now, but you could get locked in. So we kind of built interoperability of frameworks underlying.
Okay.
And that's the third pillar that we thought would be important, that you should even think from a general perspective, even if you're not using Fluid AI, just you thinking about agentics, that's I think a key one.
Cool. So I think just before, obviously very excited to go into the nuts and bolts, but I thought we'll just spend maybe a minute or two just walking folks through a little bit about what agentic is and what we're thinking, and then get right to it. So this is a little bit about us. Obviously, you guys know us. Been working in this space for the longest time. We work we launched this beautiful book. It's still available on Amazon, Bridging the AI Gap, written completely by AI. But this was before Agentic, right? So I think version 2 with Agentic AI maybe.
Yeah, even better.
Even better. Yeah. And in terms of what we think are going to be some really cool agents, we think data analysis via agents is going to be really powerful, where agents can, really go into company data, company systems, push information. Customer-facing agents, I think we touched upon that, but both marketing as well as customer support. I think these are definitely going to be agentic flows, and that's why I think Fluid AI's platform really shines through. Another key area is the help desks, HR, IT, all your regular help desks out there. And finally, it comes to sales and marketing. You want to create a newsletter, a blog post, and in the end, you're surprised even in AI influencers possible using agentic AI. Right?
Absolutely.
So I think we've already talked about what agentics are, but these are essentially multimodal, right? I mean, if you give them a goal, and they'll sort of just go towards that goal, and they'll adapt to the environment using the tools.
Right? Absolutely.
Right. And how they sort of transform business models is they're modular, right? So like you can literally have an agent. Let's say you're submitting a email or a newsletter, and you sort of have a planner agent which sort of plans out what kind of content is interesting. Then it says, okay, now we need to research what's the latest in that field. Then it goes down to an actual newsletter agent, and then it drafts an email out of it. So 4 steps and 4 specialists rather than one system trying to do everything together.
Correct.
All right, and again, just the LLMs are independent, right? You can use any LLM out there, right? You can, in fact, each agent could be on a different LLM.
True.
Yeah, so the planner agent could be on Llama, the writer agent could be in Gemini, we could have Anthropic, OpenAI. So it's almost like you could have a team of LLMs support you through this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So let's go into it. Let's see some. We are all excited to see the platform, the unveiling of it, and actually, sort of really excited to see what comes out.
Absolutely. So let me go ahead and share my screen. All right. So, let's start from the very bare bone basics, right?
So just walk us. What are you showing us right now?
Yeah. So what we're doing is you can create any kind of agent workflow.
Okay.
And so you can create basically you can treat each agent, and this is a nice starter, like a simpler one. So this is like a very simple agent. So it's going to basically, it has a journey to it, which is like a stock market research agent. And we said, okay, let's have, an investment research planning person, a research analyst, and then a final research advisor.
Okay.
And let's kind of put them together to do something interesting. Now, like you just click on an agent, you can see that how we define an agent. It's all very simple. Like
okay.
That's what I wanted to drive home.
Can you walk us through the screen? So I see system prompt.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Yeah. So you give the name of the agent, and you just describe what the agent does.
Right.
So like this is the planning agent, right? So its job is to plan. The system prompt is the main instruction to the agent.
Okay.
Right. Like what is this agent going to do?
Okay.
And so in this case, it said, okay, you are an expert on investment analysis, and you will break down the incoming question into a list of simple independent questions that a research analyst can research.
Okay. So the user is obviously going to just give something very complex, but this agent's job is to break it into its pieces.
Correct. Okay. And then so it's basically saying think through and iterate, come up with the final list of questions and output those questions.
Okay.
And give me about 2 to 5 research questions.
Okay.
Right. And it said, hey, the main question is, and then this is the input by the user, right? Whatever the user gives it essentially.
Okay.
So that's how you define the agent. For techies, this is how you decide which agentic platform you're running on.
Okay. Right? So I'm seeing LangChain, I'm seeing Llama Index. What do these mean?
These are basically open source platforms.
Okay. Agentic.
Yeah, agentic platforms.
Okay.
But they're only code accessible.
Okay.
Right. So the AI engine underlying, so what you do, like I talked about how you don't want to get into vendor lock-in, right? So this is how you essentially take your agents and say, okay, they can run within a particular agent library.
Okay.
Right.
And the library is being Llama Index.
Correct. So tomorrow, let's say it's running on Llama Index, and you're like, oh, okay, Llama Index has become outdated. I just do this, and boom, I've rewritten all my entire code base to run on LangChain's LangGraph platform.
Got it.
Like one drop down. And
so this is super exportable.
Correct. Exactly. So no lock-in, no getting stuck.
Okay.
Here's where you select your model, which LLM model.
All right.
And here's where you do a simple prompt. Like there are different types of agents.
Okay.
We'll get into this. But in a nutshell, like a simple prompt agent is just by its very nature simple. Like you ask a question, you get an answer.
Okay.
You have React agents, which are reasoning agents. Basically, it follows a chain of thought approach.
Okay.
So where it's like, and it will show you the chain of thought that it does.
Okay.
But it's actually quite beautiful, right? The agent it's like thinking through its steps. So it's like, okay, I need to do this. What action can I take? And then what's the observation of that action? Now what's the next thought I can do? And it kind of loops in that. So a router agent kind of orchestrates or decides, okay, out of all the agents I have, who do I use for what situation? And then function calling agents are essentially if you have like a REST API or something you want to call, you can just use these agents too.
Okay.
And these are all the tools that the agents have access to. So tools are basically functionalities.
Okay.
Right. So I'll give you an example. So you created a knowledge base.
All right.
And you want the agent.
The knowledge base is like all your documents.
Yes, all your documents.
PDFs, PowerPoints, Words. Yeah. Okay.
Internet research, right?
Okay.
So the internet research is basically agent's capability to go into the internet, get information from the internet.
Okay.
PIN authentication, account balance.
Oh, okay. So some of them are informational tools, like get information from our knowledge base from the internet, and some are like PIN authentication. So I'm guessing this is in a banking scenario. The authentical PIN, so it's connected to the PIN system.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Right. Then one-time password generation, validate that.
So who creates these tools up and up? Like, are these the APIs?
Yes. So a lot of them are APIs. Okay. Some of them come out of box with Fluid AI.
Okay.
Those are typically the two formats that you get.
So it's your APIs plus the pre-formatted, like the knowledge base, the internet one. Those are Fluid's own tools.
Correct.
And then you can add, let's say you're a bank or a telco, you can say, okay, these are my system APIs, and each of these could just be a tool.
Correct.
Okay, cool.
Right. So that's our first agent.
Okay.
Then we have a researcher agent. So the researcher agent's actually been told that, hey, below the questions that have come from that you need to research on.
Okay.
This is the output of the previous agent, the planner agent, essentially.
Got it. So the planner agent is sort of broken it down from one question to 5, 6 questions.
Correct.
And now we have this step.
Correct.
Okay.
And then it's saying, okay, so, so this is if you saw, this was this is the investment planning agent. So then this is output comes here.
Okay.
And then this has access to the stock analysis tool. It's a chain of thought thinker. So it will hit the LLM multiple times if needed.
Got it.
And and then it kind of goes ahead and does the answer. So it's saying use the analysis and then come up with a crisp summary of every research that you've done.
Got it.
And then there's a final agent that takes the output of this research analyst, right, along with the initial question, and says now just give the summarization of the entire answer that you've thought through, essentially.
All right. So that's where you move from a question. You've divided the question to pieces.
Yeah.
That's what the planner has done. Then the research analyst says he got that information, and the final research advisor just put it together in a presentable format, right? So it's almost like a 3-person team. 3 agents.
Exactly. Sorry. So let's run this and let's see what it looks like. So let's say
that right now you're showing it from the back end, right? This is, but like just to show us the steps. But otherwise, from a user perspective, it could just be question answer.
Correct.
All right. Okay. But right now we'll sort of drill through.
Yeah. So we can see what it's looking like.
Yeah.
So if I ask it like, what is the margin difference between Ultratech Cement and Ambuja Cement? right? So now the cool
Okay.
part is you'll see like the different agents start to fire off.
Okay.
So if you didn't notice, the investment planning agent has essentially done its, its first pass, which said, okay, I'm going to split this into two questions. What is the Ultratech cement margin, current operating margin, and the Ambuja cement current operating margin?
Correct.
And what you'll notice here is this is the second agent, which is a research analyst agent.
Okay.
And it's thought through its process. So it's saying, okay, I need to
go to the annual report. I can see that.
Yeah, exactly. And it said, okay, the first question I need to ask is the Ultratech cement current operating margin.
Okay.
And it's used as stock insight reference, like a tool.
Right.
And it started to get this data. So it's essentially starting to get different annual reports and different kinds of data sets that it's getting. And once it puts all of this together, it'll be able to generate your answer with the margins and the differences and everything.
Okay.
So that's how you can have like just a very simple agent that's kind of doing it. So now if we ask a very different question, like what is the market share of let's say HDFC Bank?
Okay.
Totally different question. Now it's realized, okay, it's come up with these 4 questions, right? So market capitalization,
okay,
and then total number of deposits, and then total number of deposits held, in the banking sector.
Yeah. So it's looking at market share in 2 ways. It's saying either it could be as market capitalization,
correct,
or it could be deposits.
Correct.
And it's trying to say, okay, those are the 2 ways that sort of get these answers out. Okay.
So now it's running its various thoughts and processes.
Okay.
And getting different kind of answers from.
Oh, wow, it's actually going bank by bank. It's saying, okay, what are the different banks?
Correct.
What are deposits?
Correct. Exactly.
Totaling all of that.
So it's kind of done that analysis, and if you see, it said total deposits is at this insane number as of 2024.
Yeah.
These are the different banks.
Yeah.
These are total deposits, and then essentially, come up with what that number looks like.
Awesome. And then it's sort of really, pulled a lot of data and analyzed it very quickly.
Correct.
And still, coming out with that one, precise answer.
Absolutely.
Got it. So that's more of a research kind of approach. But one of the key things we are very interested with Agentic is also customer interaction.
Correct.
In front of the house.
Yes.
So let's talk about that.
Absolutely. So let's go to a totally different place.
So within customer interaction, right, there's both support and sales.
Yeah.
But it's largely the same, right? You're interacting with key systems. The customer has to authenticate. That's a key part of it.
Yeah.
Because he's onboarding a new product. Mm-hmm. And a large part of those conversations are going to happen on voice, right? Because that's the current paradigm.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to force the customer to say, hey, you change where you interact with us.
Yeah.
So you want to have voice going. You want to have maybe text going as well, live chat. You want to have email. And the functionality just balloons, right? From where the stock agent was looking at just maybe information.
Yeah.
Now you're sort of saying, oh, account balance, but I need to validate before giving you the balance. I need to maybe take an action like blocking your card. And then somewhere they just throw in a generic query like, what time is the bank branch open till, right?
Yeah.
So it's so much more complex.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. So here's that, this is that example of how you start with, okay, the router, the router agent kind of getting the initial, figuring out where the customer authenticated, these are all the available agents, figuring out where the agents need to go, and then sending them, there's a card balance agent, there's an account balance agent, there's an authenticated agent, and they're also deciding when to do these transfers, right? Like who transfers it back. So actually, this is where I was coming to when you start to think about really complex scenarios of also being able to answer customer knowledge questions,
right?
But also do transactions.
And that doesn't need authentication. I don't need authentication to know what time the branch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so programming this in a bot flow would have taken like days, because then like each journey, each question, sending the user back out. But now you just give it the APIs and you're kind of done, and it intelligently handles goof ups and situations, right? Customers on the phone will say, oh, okay, wait, no, I want to first discuss this. Now I want to do this. they're jumping all over the place, which like a traditional system would be really bad at doing. So if you look at a card balance agent, it's actually quite simple. You're just giving it a description, a set of instructions. Your instructions are just plain English, and you're giving it access to the card balance tool.
Okay.
And that's about it. So
and the card balance tool is typically the API to retrieve a credit card balance, correct?
Correct. So now if I run the workflow and I say, I want my credit card balance.
Okay, it's hit the router,
right.
And now it's hit the authentication, right? That I saw the orange.
Yes, exactly. So they lit up. Okay. So the router decided, okay, to do this, the user's probably not auth, so I'm going to send it to the auth agent.
Okay.
And they say, okay, sure, I can help you with that. The auth agent is taken over. So now this is where the power of having multiple agents as opposed to one agent is, right?
Okay.
Now, auth agent has got all these instructions that, okay, you know, what you need to ask the customer for, etc. How do you need to ask it? The router has its own set of instructions. So, you know, imagine trying to fit all of this, and then the card balance has its own set of instructions.
True.
So imagine and then the knowledge base one has its own set, right? Like, oh, okay, you know, and knowledge base question. Now imagine trying to put all of this in one agent, which some people are trying.
Okay.
But it's crazy, like the amount of context you'll have to send it. The LLM is going to hallucinate like crazy.
And then security, right? Because authentication is happening on the same agent.
Exactly.
Right.
The ability to fool an agent becomes very easy.
Yeah.
Security kind of goes for a toss. So now we'll let's go. So I'll say my TRN is
1234.
Sorry. Yeah. What is it?
1234.
Yeah.
42200.
1234.
2200. I think it's a 44 as well.
Oh, so I actually forgot to give it my last 4 digits.
But that's cool, right? Yeah. It asks for both.
Exactly.
And typically customers forget.
Yeah.
Or they may give it in a separate order.
Yeah. And this is where it's very different from the bot world, because I could actually give it. I can say both. Like I can say my TRN is this, my this is this. Correct. And it'll automatically.
So that old NLP flow world wherein you're like, no, I just want a TRN.
Yeah, exactly.
You can give me any order.
Yeah. Any order, anything.
Right.
Last 4 digits are 60. And then I was asking me for my card PIN. So I'll say 1.
So again, something's going to light up out there, I guess. Is the authentication agent conditioned in its flows?
So now auth agent says, okay, please hold on. I'll proceed. So now this is the cool part, right? So it sends. Like the router agent has decided to transfer the request to the credit card balance agent.
Okay.
And then the card balance agent has gone ahead and taken that request.
Right.
And then it's thought, okay, I need to use this tool to get the customer's card balance.
Okay.
And I'm going to use the card's last 4 digits and then the customer TRN.
Okay.
Which is got from previously in the
and that's what the API needs, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's figured out what the API needs, and it knows from the past conversation this has been collected.
Okay.
Through some smart memory, and then this is the API that responds saying, okay, balance is 6084 and $1,200 is $1,200 is the balance.
Okay. So Abhinav, but question. Let's say the API updates tomorrow, instead of last 4 digits, we need something else.
Correct.
Would it just
just literally like you just add in the API tool, in the card balance tool, you add the additional parameter that's needed.
Okay. Like mother's maiden name.
Yes, exactly. And you're done. Like you don't need to change anything else. Like the systems will all know that now this is needed, and the LLMs will ask the questions. The flows will automatically like handle the situations.
Got it.
The agents will be intelligent.
So all that error handling, right? Suppose someone doesn't provide the mother's maiden name, etc. That's pre-taken care of. You just need to add the element one place.
Exactly.
Got it.
And so now let's say it's done this. Now let's say I ask a question like, and this is so like I'll say, okay, what are the fees on the Sapphire credit card?
Okay, that's a generic question. I don't need odds for that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, so it goes to the get card fees.
Correct.
That's the tool that's
correct.
Okay.
So then it'll kind of move accordingly
in
the situation, because this needs a different layer of auth. But now if I ask it, what was my credit card balance again? So it's come, it still has that memory of, okay,
of the conversation.
And I can even say, can you tell it to me in words?
Got it. So
yeah. So then saying your card balance is 1,300.
So just 1,268.
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it can handle like these, like when it becomes human-like.
Okay.
When people just start chit-chatting with it and asking for different situations.
That's pretty amazing.
You can handle it quite well.
And the same thing translates to voice, right?
Correct. Yeah. And that's where the very cool it gets, because you take this experience,
Okay.
and we move it to voice. Yeah.
So in a voice element, while we're going to show it over browser,
Yeah.
it can actually connect to telephony systems through SIP, right?
Correct.
So it's single line of code addition, literally, to add to any existing telephony system, wherein you can take the same agent, which Abhinav was showing for credit card balances, etc., to actually get it activated on a voice kind of platform as well. So you literally have the same tool, not just on text, but on voice as well. So it becomes multimodal in the sense that you now have it not just text, not just email, but you have voice as well. And it's brilliant in terms of saying that we have the ability to add this to SIP by a single line of code, rather than having to really get things complicated and having a lot of moving parts going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So now I'm going to come back here. So same agent, we're talking to her, but on voice. And let's see what happens.
Hi, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. How can I help you?
I was wondering what my credit card balance is.
Give me a second to check that for you. I can help you with that. However, I will need to authenticate your account first. Could you please provide me with your TRN, tax registration number?
Yeah, my tax registration number is 123442200.
Please stay with me while I check that. Thank you for providing your TRN. Unfortunately, I also need to confirm that you are authenticated. Could you please let me know if you have already been authenticated?
No, the bank still needs to do my auth.
Just a moment, checking that for you. Since you are not authenticated yet, I cannot retrieve your credit card balance at this time. I recommend contacting your bank to complete the authentication process. If you have any other questions or need further assistance, please let me know.
Yeah, so that's an example of when it hits the system at the back. If the KYC is not done for the user, it can also decide to reject.
So this was a scenario where the KYC auth was not complete, so it could not handle this transaction on the phone, and it could give you that kind of messaging coming back out.
Correct. Absolutely.
Perfect. All right, so I think let's talk about another scenario, which is newsletters, right? I think that's a scenario where you move a lot of information in. There's a lot of planning happening, and also, by the way, you guys are free to sort of post something in the comments if you have a question or a query on the platform. Happy to take that and answer that. But yeah, let's talk about newsletters. Like that's a complex task. I know our marketing team spends a lot of time. We're trying to get our first newsletter out, and the AI agent has been a big help. So if you can show us how that kind of agentic model can flow.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me bring it up. And actually, maybe let's see. So in this one, what we do is we'll have a research agent. The research agent will, go to the internet, get data from different kinds of sources.
Okay.
There'll be a planner agent that will plan what needs to be researched.
Okay.
Then we'll have an agent that kind of gives the newsletter output.
All right.
And then we'll have an agent that also drafts an email for that newsletter.
Okay.
And
So you almost have all the 4 steps, from planning it out to researching it to writing the newsletter and then writing the email that goes with it.
Correct.
So let's write a newsletter on Agentic AI.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So Agentic AI and the rise of different agentic platforms.
So it's going to hit the planner agent first.
Correct.
Okay, and that sort of said, okay, I need to do it as 2 points. So that's sort of what's it divided into.
Yeah. So the understanding of agentic AI and then the analyzing of the different agentic AI platforms.
Okay.
And then now the researcher agent is starting to go.
Oh, it's done a lot of research. This is from the internet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And kind of it's putting together, some baselines from what the researcher agent is doing. Then we have the newsletter agent.
Okay.
And
that's created this whole newsletter.
Yeah, it's created the newsletter.
Oh, it's even added a PS, stay tuned for more insights. Yes. Nice.
And then the email draft that comes.
Which has a subject and things like that. Okay, nice. So it's literally like from topic to researching the internet to the newsletter to the email. We reached it within 30 seconds.
Correct.
Right. And
absolutely.
And each of these agents can be modified. We can give them tonality. We can give them previous articles, maybe a knowledge base. We don't want it to research from the internet, but from our previous blogs.
Yeah.
Right. We can do that. Right.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Perfect. All right. I think that was amazing. And this is coming out. It's already launched for a couple of our customers.
Correct.
And we are very excited to sort of showcase this to you. Do set up some time with us. We are conducting demos, strategy sessions on how Agentic AI can be used. So happy to take any kind of requests on that. You can we have a Gen AI community. Wherein we are discussing these kind of things. Oh, sorry, I forgot one thing. We have AI avatars as well possible through this technology, right? Which is a influencer which we've launched. It's called Aisha Neo. So if you're on Instagram, and she'll be on LinkedIn soon.
Right?
Yes, absolutely. She'll be on LinkedIn as well. But yeah, so this is another AI agentic platform which is creating Aisha Neo, right?
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. So she's using the multimodality and creating it. Yes.
Right. And right now it's images, but now we'll have voice in the next few days. And yeah, so I think our team put her at the NVIDIA conference a few days ago. So it's a really powerful paradigm wherein brands can actually create these influencers, and all they need is a team which is managing the agents, right? The agent which is saying, hey, put our influencer in this location, or make our influencer do this or say that, right?
Right.
Amazing. And the same kind of technology is coming with AI avatars as well, right? So right now we did voice, but imagine you want to add a visual element to that same avatar, to that same chat. We can add an avatar.
Yeah, absolutely.
And all of this can be done in a very secure architecture. Each instance is separate. You can even run it on the host, on our client's infrastructure.
Yeah.
And we are going live with these fairly quickly, right? As fast as 35 days.
Correct.
Which is a record in terms of what can be done with Agentic AI.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And we offer multiple types of architectures. We can host everything on the customer cloud. Everything can be on Fluid Cloud, and they're hybrids as well. So in terms of all these different scenarios, you have the options to really go through and see what scenario works for you. This is our AI community. On top, please do scan the code. It's a WhatsApp community. We share a lot of interesting ideas on AI, on Gen AI, on Agentic AI. And if you do want to book a demo with us, you can always log on the second QR code.
Yeah. Hasit Kaji has asked a really interesting question. So he's asked, in scenarios, depending on the prompt, series agents are invoked. And is there a capability where, based on prompt context, other value-adding agents are launched to go beyond what the customer has asked for? So Absolutely. In fact, let's try and see if we can show you that example of what that would look like. So let's say this is our agents that are planning, that are doing like card balance, auth, etc. as well, right? So most of these agents typically, once they give that value out, they move straight to stop. Now you can easily, let's say, just add an agentic node that does certain lookups of customer interest, journeys, etc. So let's say I'm just going to create a test agent, and say, okay, based on test, and say, okay, based on the customer conversation so far, think of interesting things to add to this conversation, etc., etc. And we'll just save this one. And then once you have the testing agent, you could actually do a double link. So you link this agent here as well, or you could put it in between stop and this one. So we get rid of this edge, and it goes here, and from here we go to stop. Now you could even say that only in certain scenarios where the card balance agent doesn't give a balance, it'll come here, and if there is a balance, it'll go somewhere else. So you could design those multi-journeys and breakouts as needed.
Awesome. So perfect. I think thank you today for joining us, and stay tuned for more information from us at Fluid. We're always developing new things, and we are also launching our podcasts, which are coming up next week. So excited. You'll get to know about them on our channels. Thanks again, and look forward.
Thank you all.